Hi, I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married.
With children.
We're going on 2 years of marriage.
But we've been together for 10.
He brought 2.
She brought 2.
Together, that's 4 kids.
That's way too many kids.
And we want to share what works for us.
And what doesn't.
For step-parents, co-parents, marriage, being your best self, managing work, family, friends, health. We're going to talk about...
everything.
You ready, babe?
Always.
Hey guys, I just have to say that I'm actually really impressed that my husband kept quiet for the 2 beats.
No way. I'm here. And I'm really excited because we are going to have a super fun podcast.
I think everyone just heard our guest that's with us. They heard it was almost a cackle.
It's a cackle.
Okay.
Cackle.
I would love the pleasure of introducing one of my very best friends and college roommates.
Hey.
And the guy that happened to marry us as our officiant, Kyle McGregor.
Okay, but before you take the mic, Kyle, I just want to say that right before we started recording this, my beautiful husband here said, "Baby, you take the lead. You do the intro."
You totally did.
I think I got 2 words in and then you took it away, which is awesome. I think it's great.
I wasn't trying to take it away. I think
you did a great job.
I think you're doing a great intro. Keep going.
Well, here's what happened. We have our wonderful friend Kyle, who, yes, married us and has known Mike for a very good portion of most of his life, who's here, and we're all in the kitchen, and Mike's like, I think we should do a podcast right now because we were having conversations.
Impromptu podcast.
Well, sometimes things come up and you're like, you know what? Maybe we should record this because this could be of value.
We were talking about it in the kitchen. We're like, okay, so like, what's the scenario? Like, we're going to dig into that. But we were talking about things that would be good content for a podcast potentially.
Yeah.
Having to do with blended families and like things that happen and all the stuff. And I was like, let's make a podcast right now.
And one of the things is that you just heard our previous episode was with my friend Kelsey, and we were talking with her about her experience having children and having a fiance who does not have children. And we were talking about our interview with her fiance. And so it kind of came up because we're looking at Kyle and we're like, Kyle, you've actually been in a situation where you were pretty much like a dad to a young girl. And I think you could actually offer a lot of insight for people listening, whether it's a mother who's dating somebody who has children and who's dating somebody who doesn't have children, or vice versa, a father who has children dating somebody who doesn't. And I think it's a really good perspective to hear.
So I guess first, you haven't said a single word so far. So I'd like to first say...
You guys are doing great, by the way.
Say hello to the Everything Always...
audience.
People. Don't be nervous. There's probably only one person. There's just one. And
thank you to that one listener. Mom, thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening, Mom.
Oh, crap. I'm sorry, there's 2. Thank you, Mom.
Your mom might be listening too. We do have 2. We have 2
moms.
listeners now.
Okay. It's getting better. All right. So anyway, Kyle and I first met in college. He was bad at dating back then too.
I was actually really good.
That's funny. All right.
Can I just say something? There will be no self-esteem or confidence issues in this entire podcast.
None.
Maybe from me, but not from these 2 guys.
No ego, just confidence.
Time out. All right. So let's break it down. We're going to give your stats.
Okay.
How old are you?
Older than most?
No. What's your age?
41.
Yeah, I'm probably not older than most. Most people live till like 92 now, statistically. You're younger than most.
Most people younger than 40. Yeah.
All right, come on. How old are you?
Wait. I would just like to say something. Baby, you are older than the both of us.
That's
so
true.
I'm just saying that.
You're our elder.
Continue.
I'm 41 years old, sir.
That's why I bring most of the wisdom to this podcast.
That's true. And I'm a virgin. I'm a Virgo. September is my birthday. You know?
Both of you are Virgos.
I am also a Virgo.
Okay.
So stats. 41. I'm 41 years old.
He's 41 years old. never been married.
Nope.
Had
No
lots of different relationships over time.
Correct.
But you're recently out of a relationship that was how long?
8 years.
8 years, which is a long time. And during that time, you were with someone that had a child.
Mm-hmm.
How old was that child when you first met?
When I first met her, she was 8 years old. And by the time we finished the relationship, she was 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like in general, like the way that Summer and I do these things normally, it's not about calling people out or whatever. We don't give like super specifics. It's more about lessons, the lessons that are learned and the experiences that you've had, right? And the whole thing is about helping people avoid situations that could have been, you know, maybe different if they had more information, right? We're about disseminating information and I don't know, just talking about like the things that we've gone through so that people can maybe make better choices or different choices or potentially the same choices, right? I mean,
well, and also I think the big thing too is getting to hear like your perspective, because if I'm a listener that has children and I'm dating somebody who doesn't have children, I'd be super interested to hear what that person's perspective would be, vice versa. I think it will shed some insight to go, wow, that could be something that would be really hard that maybe I've never actually appreciated or acknowledged. So it would be, maybe I should think about that a little bit more, you know?
Well, I think growing up, I had 4 older siblings.
Yeah.
Right? And they were between 7 and 11 years older than me, my twin brother. And so I was able to see, you know, even at a young age, them going through their relationships and the follies and all the nastiness that came with that and all the joy as well, you know, and saw what I didn't like and what I learned from them, because you can learn 2 different ways. You can learn from your own mistakes or other people's mistakes, but you also learn from their, you know, what they chose to do that created happiness, you know? And so seeing that was a great opportunity to have older siblings to say, holy crap, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So you're able to kind of model like what you wanted your life to be based off of the things that you saw.
Yeah, and I was all super blessed. Also have an amazing father that was just loving, kind, and authentic. And
You talk about your dad a lot.
I love my father. He's a good dude.
Man,
but just to see that relationship also with my mother and father, where some people have just like a nasty upbringing with bad parents or whatever it may be, but I had great parents, and they just showed how to love each other and how
how long were they together?
Almost 50 years before he passed away 5 years ago.
And like right out of high school, college?
No, he was an attorney, and she was 24. He was 34 when they got married.
So they were pretty much like, boom, together.
Within a year, had their first
family.
kid. Yep.
All right.
Ground and pound, rocked it out, and then, you know, realized that...
Would you say ground and pound?
I guess, I don't know, is it a wrestling term? I don't know. I'm not sure.
What does that mean?
Kyle was a wrestler in high school.
I've never heard that terminology before, but I got to call you out on it because I'm like, ground
I thought he would
and
catch
pound?
it. You totally caught it.
Does that mean like you got to like take her to the ground and like...
And then pound it, you know.
No, here's the thing with him.
They had 6 kids.
He's now going to
okay.
use that. He picks up things, and then like the next day, you're going to be like, "Did you
Welcome
just use
to the
ground and pound
and
3
pound
times
podcast.
today?"
Just give me credit twice, and then you can use it for your own. Okay, good.
That's a verbal contract.
Done and done.
All right,
Oh
so
my goodness.
back to the point.
No, so the point is that I was fortunate to be able to learn some of those lessons early on. And
So do you feel like you had a really stable childhood and growing up and like consistent parents, like no drama? Give me the dynamic. Like
zero drama. Yeah, my butt. I mean, that's any family says they don't have drama, that means that they are an alien.
But you didn't have
No, but I
the
didn't
drama
come
that
from-
normally was like a broken family, stepdad, stepmom, like scenario.
Remember that? Yeah, so I had parents that were together their whole lives and showed, you know, what consistency and staying together and commitment looked like. You know,
Most of your drama was the fact that your twin brother was better looking than you.
most likely. You know, yeah. I mean, he had the looks and I had the brain, so at least we balanced each other at some.
Sorry about that, Craig.
We may have shared a brain. Actually. I don't know. We're better together. He's a good dude.
I really like that. Okay, so we've gotten kind of a little bit of an idea about like what your upbringing was like. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your last relationship.
Okay.
You spent 8 years of your life with someone that you super loved. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that you thought there was a long-term path. And we're going to flash to the end. They're not together now.
Correct.
When you came into the picture, what was it like getting to know her daughter, who was 8? Mm-hmm. Give us a little insight on that.
When we first started dating, it was a while before I even met her daughter. You know, she was very protective.
Like how long?
6 months.
Which is actually super smart and probably really healthy.
No, I completely agree with everything.
And maybe even longer, depending on like how far in the relationship and like commitment status.
We waited a long time until our kids met.
Longer than that, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with not meeting kids, parents, whatever it may be, because you want to build a relationship, let it grow organically. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't want it to force something. And you want to know if it's right or not, because you don't want to like introduce somebody or a boyfriend, girlfriend to a relationship with their children that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So that was a smart move on that side. But there was ups and downs, highs and lows, and there was a lot of immaturity, I think, on both sides of the beginning of the relationship, because she had just come out of one, I had just come out of one. And one of the biggest lessons I could probably share with you today is what's hard is giving enough time between relationships where you can get back to you and get back to who you are and your essence, but also to not bring your baggage into the next relationship, because that can destroy at the beginning, and to learn those lessons at the beginning.
So were you bringing baggage in, or was she?
I think we both were, honestly. And then those initial stages where
which is pretty normal, probably.
It is normal.
Like, as an adult, you weren't 20 when you met. How old were you when you guys first met?
Shoot, I was
31.
That was almost 10 years ago now. So
you do some quick math.
Yeah, 31, 32.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not a kid in that scenario.
And I'd been in two other relationships over 2 or 3 years previously.
And she obviously had been in other relationships because she has a child, and like that child's already 8. Mm-hmm. She probably had her daughter in her young 20s, right? I'm really good at math.
No, she was definitely not. She was not. She was in high school when she got pregnant. And
okay, so she was younger than you. So
so she had a lot of layers, a lot of walls, a lot of things guarded. She was very guarded, very beautiful girl. And, you know, there was things that, you know, we had to work through and to be able to just show the open, authentic her.
How long was it before you guys moved in together after you started dating?
Over 6 years.
So you dated for 6 years before you moved in?
Yeah, I commuted for about 6 years. You know.
So you would do dates and like keep it, was it casual? Was it 100% committed?
No, the first 6 months was kind of hit or miss. It was like we weren't seeing eye to eye, and it was tough to communicate because she had the previous and I was coming out of one. And so for the first 6 months, it was kind of up in the air. And I think certain seeds were planted that really didn't help set the precedence of those things, right? So here's the point of that. The reason I share that is how you start a relationship is important. Mm-hmm. And coming in an open, authentic, honest experience versus let me hide things behind your back or not feel like I can be open with you. But if you can just be you and the authentic you at the very beginning, that will help set the precedence of a potential relationship versus you can actually set some mind bombs in the relationship early on if you're not, you know, being your authentic you.
I think that's so true. Yeah, that's a really good point. The thing that I'm really curious about is the whole dynamic with there's a child. Once you did meet this 8-year-old daughter, what was that like? I guess what I really want to know, and I think what people would want to hear, especially me as a mother, or if somebody who's dating somebody who is like, I have a kid or I don't have a kid and I'm dating somebody who has one, vice versa. I would want to know, like, what were like some of the feelings that you had? Was it like, oh, we got along right away? Or was it like, man, this took a long time? Or did you sometimes feel like, you know, I really want to give a lot, or sometimes I feel like I don't? Like, I already know this. Like, I already know that it's a roller coaster because I know it's a roller coaster for us, and we're both parents and we both brought, you know, 2 kids, and it's a roller coaster just bonding with stepkids and then your own kids and all of that. So I want to hear some of that real stuff.
Well, I think it's based on, number one, the personality of the person, because there's a lot of takers in the world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men that just, you know, hey, look, I'm the king, so bow to me. I mean, I don't know
like
if you've
to
ever
think that men are like that because
what I was saying is that I think that those types of things, the men, so those types of men that expect those things, right, can lay a ground or have women pull away and not feel that they can trust and so on and so forth. At the beginning, once I actually was introduced and she chose in and we wanted to actually pursue something and be monogamous at the time, and I was introduced to her daughter, it was awesome because her daughter, she does a great job being a mother, and she's got a really beautiful, just fun, vivacious young daughter. And I built a really great relationship over time with her. Even at the beginning, we took her to Hawaii when she was like 8 or 9. She's like, I want you to be my dad. She liked me, like, right? But then she realized, hold on, if you're going to be my dad, that means I have to share you with my mom. And man, maybe I don't want that.
You know that this conversation and all the laughing is going to get like really, really low as soon as we get deep into this right now. Because we talk about this stuff, and this is serious stuff. So like all the smiles need to come off the faces.
What are you talking about?
No. Check it out, because like I want to ask you some serious questions right now.
Okay.
I've known you pretty much my whole life.
Yeah, half of it at least.
I mean, I
don't know what he had it.
Anyway, my point is.
Okay, so when we get deep, you want to talk some serious questions.
So let's be serious for a second.
All right, let's do this.
The thing is, I've known you through that relationship.
I know,
and I know the struggles that have come because you were connected to a kid that you are no longer connected to because you guys are no longer together.
Correct,
and that's really hard. I can only imagine that you feel not only the loss of the relationship, which is hard enough for most people, but the disconnection from a situation where I know you felt like you were in a co-parenting scenario. And that's got to be really tough. So we're lively and we're having fun and everything, but like I'm not trying to bring it down, but I'd like to have a serious conversation with real feelings for a minute about how this is and like how you feel.
Well, do you want to? What route do you want to go? Do you want to address the fact that the relationship maybe took a turn at certain points, or
you know what?
Certain things that were said and addressed 4 years before that I said that I wanted certain things in life and she wanted certain things. What are you looking for?
I guess actually here, I don't really give a crap about the fact that your relationship ended. That happens all the time. That's the deal. For whatever reason, trust me, 50% of all marriages fail. I'm sure more than 50% of all dating relationships fail. We can get into like statistics about all that. I want to know about how you felt about losing the relationship with the child that you thought that you were in a co-parenting relationship with. You guys lived together. You obviously had a relationship with her daughter.
I think it's also important to mention that her father was not in the picture. So you really were the father figure. So there was no like you competing with time or she was going, it was full time having her. And especially when you guys were living together, it was full time.
And what was the dynamic like? Like, were you running her to activities and like, were you acting like a parental figure?
I was doing all of that. Taking her to school in the morning, buying her things for her, because she actually loved wrestling. She did tennis. I mean, all these things like, so I was that role in her life, but the frustration on this side was it was half in with the mom. So, I mean, you look at different demographics and not just talking about my relationship, but even other relationships where the woman is okay with the man being the stepdad or being the boyfriend can actually help parent. I never felt I was given that opportunity. I felt that I couldn't do anything or say anything to be able to help guide that direction, because it was always the reins being pulled out.
You never had full access to like.
Not at all.
Was that because you weren't formally married, or was that because like why was there the separation in terms of?
I think it's just, I mean, for me seeing it, and I'm in it because what doesn't know what water is? A fish, because the fish is in it, right? If the fish is in it, you can't see because you're in it. You can't see what it is. So for me being in it, from my experience, what I saw, what I felt was that she had to have control. And I totally understand that because she had to be the mom and the dad for this young...
And the main protector.
Right.
And the controlling factor for everything.
Right.
So she's this controlling female that needs to protect her child. And whether I've been with her for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, doesn't matter. She was the protector. So I was never really, truly, fully integrated. And it was, even though she said that I was, I never felt it fully, which was frustrating.
So I guess so what we're trying to get to here is like the dynamics of the relationship. And to understand, like, this is a modeling thing, right? So we're trying to learn for people that are like potentially like moms that have kids that are introducing their family to a guy and like bringing them in, and how can this dynamic work, and how can we give valuable information in that scenario? It could be the other way. It could be the dad that has a child that's either, lost or separated from the mom, and like, how do they introduce the other person? So we're looking for valuable information here about how to do this.
I think a lot of what he said is extremely valuable, especially if you are on the other side, to hear the perspective of, here's his perspective. We have friends where it's the opposite, where it's the male who has, it's a father who has kids, and it's the girl who does not. And she's coming in as, either stepmom, mother, whatever, whether she's either coming in just as a friend or whatever it is. I think, to me, at least, that's the value to take from it, is going, well, what are they experiencing? Because I would imagine, being a parent myself, that you can get real wrapped up in your own emotions of what you need to do for your child. But at the end of the day, if you are going to commit to a relationship, you have to understand the feelings of the person you're in the relationship with. It's true. Only fair if you're going to be committed and you're going to say, okay, we're going to do this together, especially if you're going on the basis that you and I go off of, which is, if we are going to become a family, if we are going to be a family, then we are going to show the example of putting each other as a priority, which we believe in. We are all about, we want the kids to go, hey guys, actually, we're going on a date night this week, and we're doing this, and we're
you have to model
like
what a successful, connected
and so my
looks like.
And the reason why I feel like this is so valuable and important is because one of the things that I hear as an issue a lot is from the person that's in a relationship where the person they're with has a child, is that they're not feeling like a priority. I think it's important to hear that. I wasn't
third place. I was like 6th or 7th place.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, whatever it may be, but there were certain times, I felt good.
Yeah.
But from a single person coming in, helping take care of a lot of things in their lives and helping support that, I'm not going to say never. It was hard to feel completely integrated. Felt like it was a family unit.
Like you were a trespasser in their family.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for taking a chance on us and listening to our podcast. Our goal is for you to not only learn from us, but to learn with us. We've taken a leap on being pretty open about our blended family and how we do life in everything. We want to make sure we bring you all the things you want to hear. Always. So please, if you have specific questions like, how do I get along with my ex? Or how do I get along with his ex? Or how do I set some boundaries in place? Or why doesn't my stepson like me? Please email us with your questions. Email them to info@summerfelix.com because we want to answer those questions, and we aim to bring you the best guests and conversations to address your most burning issues about everything. Always. What would you have done differently? Is it like what we should have been on the same page? Or I
think getting to once you choose in, you fully choose in, you say, look, are we going to do this? Let's draw a line in the sand. Let's get real with each other. And what do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you really want? What are you looking to achieve now? What are your goals? Are we in alignment with that? If our goals are at least congruent, we don't have to want all the same stuff, but I'm saying, are your goals in life congruent to what my goals are?
Yeah.
And I told her for years and years and years, I want my own kids. I want my own family. I want to build something. I want to have children, other aspects and other goals that we shared privately that she would say yes, and I would say yes, and we would say on occasion, but I don't think the communication was as consistent. So I think consistent communication with knowing what each other wants and needs in life, that each other's goals are being met.
And they weren't in alignment.
They were not.
Which actually is what ended up leading to you guys not being together.
Correct.
She had a daughter. You wanted a family. You wanted more kids. Can I ask you a real serious question?
Sure.
Do you wish you would have asked her at the very beginning? Do you want to have more kids? Because I would like to have kids of my own.
I did.
And okay. Okay, so that wasn't the answer that I was thinking. Because normally people jump into relationships and they're just going down this thing thinking that they're going to figure it out when they're not clear on exactly what they want, which would normally save them a lot of time.
I already knew exactly what I wanted. And I already expressed that to her at the beginning of the relationship. Halfway through.
And so it was a turnaround there. She said, yes, I'll have more kids. And
pretty much.
Hey, guess what? In the big picture for this podcast, it doesn't really matter about your specific situation in terms of why it didn't work out. So we don't want to spend too much time on that, and not to be unempathetic.
No, it's fun.
But the real situation is...
It's about learning lessons that people can learn about.
Right. It's about the lessons.
Those seeds that you can
really, that's the big question.
Clear.
I would go, what would you have done differently? I mean, that's the big question.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And not being deterred from specifics or whatever, but that clarity of what that path looks like for each other. Mm-hmm. And if you're in alignment, and if you're not, be okay to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying I wasted my life, but at the end of the day,
brother,
I could have spent years building a relationship with somebody else that had something in alignment.
I think relatively mediumly smart business person and a CFO for some companies, whatever. Statistically, you were together for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
The average life expectancy for a man, I believe, right now is about 81 years. You gave up 10% of your life on this dating experience. You only get to do that 10 times.
Yep. I better take some really good lessons from that.
And I'm saying, the takeaway is, you better know what you want. Because now, check it out. You're 41 years old. Mm-hmm. You still want to have kids. Mm-hmm. You're a great guy. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess if anyone's seen the movie Old School.
Disease-free man.
I'm sorry. We've got a very disease-free man. Let's consider this the Kyle Palooza.
Oh my goodness.
We're re-releasing him to the wild.
Oh my gosh. That is hilarious.
You can,
wow.
I guess, private message Summer.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm actually just kidding. More about this. Back to being serious.
Okay.
Do you feel a little bit of sadness that you have left the life of the daughter for 8 years? 8 years is a long time. I mean, eight years is longer than most first marriages.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
it's longer than our first marriages.
That's right. I wasn't married. I was married for 7
You know what's
years.
funny? I think you and I have been together, and then we'll go back. But
longer.
you and I, longer than we were both, longer than you were married, longer than I was with my ex-husband. It's
for sure. What I'm saying is in a normal scenario in that situation, you'd be like, well, what's my visitation? I have a connection. And when you're just dating without being married and it's not your biological child, man, it could be a snap. And then you're like, this person that I was connected with, there's got to be a loss in that. I mean, this scenario is scary for me.
Mm. Oh man, we have talked about this. So that's why it's a really great question. We've talked about, Mike has said to me, well, what happens? If something happens to me, I hope that you would still be in Justin and Ashlyn's life. And I'm like, of course I would. Why wouldn't I be?
Man,
of course. And he's like, well, what if this and what if that?
It's the most terrible scenario for me right now. Mm. If something, heaven forbid, screw you, heaven, right? If something should happen.
Screw you, whatever. Okay.
I'm just saying, don't you do it. I'll come after you, heaven. There isn't a single angel that will live.
Don't take
I mean, I'm sure they're not, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the point. My point is, in that scenario, if all of a sudden that the situation, because of the other dynamics, if I never get to see Logan and Chloe again, there would be an absent. I would be wow, that would suck.
That's what's happening to me.
I would hate that. Like, I would be like, this isn't fair. Like, this is like, no, it's not right. But it's a little bit unfortunate because of the dynamics of how things work in blended families.
Yeah.
That could be a very real like scenario.
Yeah, it's true.
And that just sucks.
And age is important too, because it's like, how old are the kids? How much does, the other parent have control? Do they have phones? Can I still text them? Things like that. But in your situation, let's hear more about that. Like what did that feel like? I know in conversations that you and I have had privately, I know some things, but if whatever you can share, I think is helpful, because I think people do go through this.
Well, no, it's a real scary dynamic of like, if you're dating someone with a kid and you've spent not just like 2 months, 8 years creating a relationship and like having feelings in that scenario, give us some dirt.
Yeah, because that's enough time to actually connect. 2 months is like, ooh, glad I dodged that bullet. But 8 years is like and especially that's 8 through 16. That's like.
So the dynamic though was even deeper, because it wasn't just building a relationship with just her daughter.
And not just part-time, by the way.
No.
Because she wasn't sharing custody.
Correct. It was all the time.
Right.
And I was a part of that time, and taking her to school and picking her up and, games and all that stuff. But it wasn't just that. It was a full dynamic, because she's Hispanic and her family's amazing. I love her family. But they're very tight-knit. And it was also her sister. Her sister has 3 kids. I miss them tremendously.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just
you got
her daughter.
You got divorced from the whole family.
But
guess what, brother? That happens to everyone that gets
Totally
divorced.
get it. Totally get
The
it.
family basically goes away.
Yeah.
It's the kid relationship that I care about.
Well, that was big, because, from 8 years old, from that story, from even Hawaii, which was huge for me, to, by the time we left, I mean, she was in this teenager stage, right? Very protective of mom. And we were going through our ups and downs. So,
like any teenager and parent will.
Dude, absolutely. And still that same dynamic of, okay, you can be here, but you can't really be a parent, Kyle. That whole experience was still there, even living with each other. So that was tough, and providing certain things in life and thinking that you're creating a family. Because I asked her to marry me a year before, put a rock on that. And she said yes, with a clear intention mentally, because clearly she didn't want to, because she probably would have acted differently. No, getting back to your child thing. And I say that for a reason, because that creates gaps and it creates distances within a relationship with a child as well. But being having that relationship and a love of a young daughter pretty much yanked from you, basically, and you don't have the opportunity to really connect with her ever again. And maybe down the road we will.
And that was theoretically 10% of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to live to like
currently
120 years old. Obviously,
it's a smaller percentage.
You're Scottish, and
I look to a century life.
Hey, so all kidding aside, that's tough stuff, and the loss that you feel in those scenarios is actually really hard to deal with. So let's talk about some takeaways.
Well, wait, before we go into takeaways, because look, here's the thing: people listen to podcasts and things like that because they want to hear, What are some of the real things? Did you feel, I mean, I'm just thinking about this, and I'm thinking about, if I had gone through that. If something had happened where you and I had broken up or something, there is that feeling of like,
it's similar to Mike, by the way.
Yeah. There would be that total feeling of just like, I give a lot to those kids. I helped with activities, birthday parties, this, whatever, the things, or like when so-and-so was upset about, this friend being mean, there's so much.
If we broke up, which is not going to happen, obviously.
Clearly.
But if it did, I would be super sad about that. Right? I mean, it's like that breaking up of a family. Regardless of the piece of paper that comes from the government that says, oh, guess what? You're married. You had a connection. You had a marriage of sorts, not legally, obviously. But man, the struggles are the same.
No, but I
without
think it's really important to acknowledge those feelings, because I know as a step parent, you know, as a step parent, you know, as acting as especially almost like a full-time dad, because there wasn't in the picture, and nobody can see this. I'm looking at Kyle when I say that. And then before I was looking at you, Michael, I just really want to stress the point, like to really acknowledge what you go through. And the reason why is because I think one of the hardest things about being a step parent for me is it actually is a thankless job. And I'm not even saying that like, give me pity points, it's not at all like, hey, I need all this acknowledgement or anything. But it really is. There are times where you feel kind of lonely because it is a thankless job. There are so many things that you go out of your way to do, whether it's financially, whether it's, yes, I'll pick them up. I'll take them to the doctor. I'll do this. I'll do that. There are things that you are doing. You're showing up for games, and sometimes you can't do all of it. Right. And so then you have that guilt, and then you have expectations, but at the same time, you're also, you're supposed to be there all the time, but I don't want you there all the time. But because you've got like,
oh my gosh, you explained my whole relationship.
Right? And so, and that's what I really want. Like, that's the thing. Like, I freaking get it.
I want you there when I need you there. And then when I don't want you there, then go away.
That's exactly the thing. And it's like, and babe, I'm not saying that I get that from you, because you're always like, please be there all the time. I'm talking about even like as a step parent, when you're dealing with a bio parent, maybe it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you're there. And then at the same time, it might be like, excuse me, this is not your role.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you can get that, as I've seen, fathers do that to stepmom who don't have children. Do you know how many stepmoms I hear from that don't have any children? And this is why I'm hoping to have a voice for them right now. They might not have their own biological children, but they are the stepmother to these babies. And they are like, okay, my husband is working, and I am the one that is like picking up kids. I'm driving them all over the place. I haven't even
stepped into the role.
They've stepped into the role. And then they've also got, maybe a bio mom that's going like, you actually didn't do that as good as I would do it, or whatever it is.
You should check with me before the food.
Or you should check with me, or I really wish you didn't buy those party favors. That was my job. Or could you talk, you're like, and as a stepmom, you're just like, I'm just trying to be nice. I'm just trying to make everybody get along. You're going through a lot. You're like, but you buy something really great for them. And then, whatever, there's all of these things that happen that you do not get acknowledged for until you're finally crying and your husband,
those women need like an extra super awesome present. And that present should probably be like a cruise to the Caribbean.
That'd be great.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I just have related, because Kyle, you and I have had a lot of conversations, and I freaking get it, because at the end of the day, none of it was ever your responsibility, ever, not once, ever. You volunteered it. You gave with love. And I see a lot of step parents that are doing that. They're doing it because they love the person that they're with. They've grown to love this child, and they're giving and giving, but nowhere is it their responsibility to do that. It is still not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to do anything for Justin and Ashlyn. Like, legally, like, it's not a responsibility. It's a moral obligation that I have, that I feel, that I love, and that I want to do because I choose to. There's no like, well, I'm their mother and I have to do it. I don't. And so I just really like the purpose of this, and like us talking here, is really to give a voice to those people, because it's freaking hard and it is thankless. Mm-hmm. It really is.
I think one of the takeaways, if you want to go into there at this point, but I think one of the hardest things for most parties to do is just stop and be emotionally mature enough to look and put yourself in the other person's perspective.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't given that enough, not being a victim. And honestly, at times, I don't think I did that enough. I did as much as I could, and I should have. I should have done more. But to put myself in her scenario, in her situation, what would I be feeling if I were in her space, in that scenario? And I think most of us, we don't do that enough.
We don't. You're right.
Are you talking about like coming at it from an empathetic mind?
Yes.
Yeah.
Understanding like other people's feelings.
Well, stopping and looking at number one, look in the mirror first, taking responsibility for what you choose to do and not do, how you want to communicate and share. And would you want to be communicated that way? Number one. Number two is putting yourself in that scenario. Let's just say you have an argument, and then putting yourself in that scenario where, how would I feel if Kyle was talking to me that way? Would I feel like backed against a corner, or would I feel empowered? Like, how would I have felt in that specific scenario?
Yeah.
I don't think most of us do that enough. And I think in relationships, the more that we can take the opportunity to do that, and if you're feeling resistance, you're feeling, maybe a negative experience or a negative feeling, if you can put yourself in the other person's shoes and have the opportunity to feel what they may potentially be feeling, and then just be humble enough to recognize that, and then be empathetic enough, or maybe even apologetic or humble enough to actually come back around and say, you know what, I put myself in your scenario, and maybe I screwed up.
Yeah. But you're right. We get so wrapped up in ourselves and like what we're feeling.
The ego's pretty big.
Sometimes forget that there are other people
that have feelings too,
that are actually like giving.
They're human beings
with no like responsibility to do it.
Yeah. We talked about that. We talked about this recently on, it might've been our last podcast. I'm not sure which one, but we were talking about that. And I was like, I had to own that, where I was like, I need to, there's some times where I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, you know what it was? It was with the girls. It was the podcast with the girls, and Ashlyn was talking about having empathy. And one of the things that she had learned, or one of the things that she would tell other stepchildren was have empathy for the other kids. Because sometimes you think you're going through all of these things and you think it's all, all on you, or you're the only one getting in trouble. You're the only one this, you're the only one that.
Said that?
Yeah. And then she's like, and then you realize like, oh, wait a minute. They're going through
all
stuff too.
dealing with their own things.
Everyone's, and I told her.
And everyone's like dealing with their own stuff.
Yeah.
And I had told her, I was
and I was so proud at that moment.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, and I had said to her, I was like, I've done that with your dad, where there's times where I'm like, all worked up about something, and he'll, it's a situation that's like it's affecting both of us, and I'm like all wrapped up in it. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I have to realize that he's actually having feelings about this too. Yeah. So it's not all about me. He's going through this stuff too. And it's true. You do need to, it feels a lot better in any situation when you shift it off of yourself and start to realize what somebody else is going through, because then you can start to be helpful and you start to feel the good parts of yourself when you take all the attention off of yourself and actually look at someone else. I think it's also
giving mentality.
It's just the giving mentality. That's what it is.
The more that you give yourself and find ways to serve others, the more you actually start realizing who you truly are.
Yeah. Absolutely. You really start to see the good parts in yourself and the parts that you want to grow, and you realize, oh, wait, I like this. Maybe I should do more of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus me, ego.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we got some good stuff. This was a good long episode. We got fired up at the end there.
It may be a little bit too long.
Yeah, whatever.
Although, there's
a lot of Kyle tonight.
All right, so in general, we typically leave with some takeaways.
Okay.
I mean, I think the really great takeaways that I got from it, and you guys can chime in, was really taking responsibility for your choices. Be honest and authentic, especially, in the relationships that you're in. Understanding and really acknowledging what somebody else is going through and having empathy with that.
These are really good, baby.
And growing together. I mean, allow the relationship, at least at the beginning, to organically grow, but be authentic, open, and real with each other, and get on the same page. If you're ready to take that next step, whether it's a month in, 2 months, 5 months, to be able to see if you're ready to make that commitment. If you want to be in a monogamous relationship and you're ready to commit, to make sure you're on the same page. That way, you're actually growing together.
I agree.
And those are really good. Mine would be, and they're kind of layered on top of this. Be slow when it comes.
Right, and have the courage to say no if that's not right. If the relationship isn't right, have the courage to say no. But hey, look, we've been hanging out for a month, 2 months, 3 months, but you know what? We may not be in the right timing with each other. It may not be the right.
That's right. So and what I was saying with the be slow is be slow to quick engage. hey, let's move in together. Hey, I want you to meet my kids. Like, hey, I want let's move really fast. In those scenarios, you're making dangerous and hard decisions.
It's detrimental for the kids.
And it's especially for the kid. From the kid's perspective, you stay right the hell out.
Right.
The slower you go, they don't need to know you unless you're real.
Nope.
But in those scenarios, like in the situations like that we're talking about here, be slow. There is no hurry. You will win in the long run by taking time. I mean, those are my takeaways.
I think what would be cool is one day to have, if we could get that, it might
and
be.
And don't date psycho people. That's the best
thing. Come on.
Just joking.
I think what would be super cool, it would be really interesting to hear a child's perspective from losing somebody that was in their life for so long. And if they had a choice to keep talking to that person, or if they did not, or if they were, I think that would be interesting. So my guess is that would come from an adult who had experienced that. We probably wouldn't get it from an actual child, but we could actually hear what their experience was. And I appreciate a lot of you adults who have written into us to share your experiences that you had when you were a child, because it is so insightful. And I'm super excited that we got to have Kyle here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing and being so real and honest.
This podcast was scheduled in the kitchen earlier, 30 minutes ago, 30 or 45 minutes ago, which is actually really funny. It was like, you know what? We're having a great conversation. Let's do a podcast.
And we're going to interview Kyle.
Right now. Get your ass in here.
Thanks for having me here.
To our professional podcast studio known as
honestly,
our bedroom.
It's nice to be able to, and honestly therapeutic, because it's good to have conversations about this stuff, to be able to share it, to be able to share it with the world, because people need to hear people's experiences and learn from their lessons. So thanks for letting me share and contribute.
Thank you.
Thanks for being open.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to our podcast. You know what they say, if you can't find what you're looking for, then you need to create it. So that's what we did.
Yep, I scoured the internet and looked for the tribe that spoke to me, and I just couldn't find the community that was raw, vulnerable, and really wanting to make a change to the millions of families like ours. So I decided to create it. It took about one conversation for my husband to say, I'm in, and here we are.
But it takes listeners like you to keep it alive.
So please, if you like this, write a review, take a screenshot, share it on your social media. Tell people, it means the world to us.
Remember to email us. We would love to hear from you.
And please share this with someone you love.
And be bold enough to share it with someone that you don't.